The first point I want to make here today for the members of the press and the public is to remember that we, in fact, have a budget.
Yes.
We passed a budget on February the 20th, 2009. This is a budget revision, and it is very different because we're not going to present a full and complete budget to the governor for various blue pencils and the kind of traditional negotiation back and forth. What has happened since February 20th is that the economy has slipped, and of course we lost Prop 1C on May the 19th. And so it's our responsibility to provide $20 billion plus worth of solutions to be able to revise the budget to get it back into balance. The governor proposes $24.3 billion of solutions. We will present $23.2 billion worth of solutions. But we believe that we do so in a way that is better for the economy and more fair to California's families. It solves the cash problem. There is no borrowing in our budget as we avoid the borrowing from local governments. 75% of the solutions are ongoing. 87% of our differences with the governor relate specifically to our insistence that we protect the safety net for children and for the most vulnerable Californians. We have $3.8 billion in reserve compared to $4.5 billion by the governor. We have an adequate reserve even if we lose the tax increases, which I know is going to be a subject of your questioning and a great deal of debate. And we believe in them, but even without them, we have a sufficient reserve. As the Speaker said, we have a mix of solutions, just as the public in poll after poll has told us they want. Major cuts. Talk to the advocates and the people impacted by the cuts in developmental disabilities and ask them whether or not the cuts are not deep enough. But we also have some limited, emphasis on limited new revenue. And I think the people of California and the legislature have to ask a question. Is it more important to not look at increasing the tax on tobacco products versus eliminating 900,000 kids from the health care rolls? We're not willing to do that. The governor, I know, has said that he doesn't like some of the one-time fixes that are in this budget. I would point out that the accelerations that we put forward, including the independent contractor withholding, is a revenue acceleration just like the governor's proposal to increase income tax withholding and modify quarterly tax payment schedules. The one-day paycheck deferral mirrors the governor's other cash deferral proposals, and it is consistent with previous state actions on major programs such as education payments. As the Speaker said, we present a budget where, in fact, everybody feels some pain. Every part of the safety net, in fact, takes a cut. But we do so in a way that we believe is consistent with the values of California. Glad to answer your questions.
Does the governor have a math problem when he says this budget can be balanced without taxes?
It depends how you define balance. Because, look we said this to the governor. We met with the governor before we came down here. We all want to get to as high of a solution as we can, $25 billion. But the way the governor proposes doing so, the price is too high. The price is too high. We are willing to cut and cut deeply. In fact, we've got a little sheet here that demonstrates the level of cutting that we have done, just so you have it in context. 2004-5, $5.1 billion. 2005-6, $4.1 billion. 2007-8, $3.1. Over the last year, September 08-09, $11.4 billion. Last February, $15.4 billion. And we are going to cut $11+ billion in this budget. The total over that 5-year period, nearly $49 billion worth of cuts.
40% of our.
And so the
more than 40%
and so
of
the
our
point
budget.
is, if we want to put more money in reserve, which is a good idea, that we need to do it not solely on the backs of people who can't take anymore. The children and the people who are most vulnerable. If we do the governor's level of cuts, unemployment will increase by almost a half percentage point. And so there are real stakes for our economy. We all want to get out of this recession. We want California to lead the way out of this recession. The reason why balance is important, it's not just a political exercise. It's because if we're going to help participate in the recovery of this economy, we hurt the economy by going too deep on the cut level and allowing thousands of people to be without employment checks. The budget is done. This is a budget revision. It is very different. And we take the governor's revenue solutions, we make fewer cuts than he does, and we substitute the difference with $2 billion worth of tax increases and some revenue accelerations consistent with what he has proposed. We will work out our differences here, and we will get this done. But how do you vote against cuts if you're the Republican Party that has advocated a cut strategy for many years? You don't vote for cuts that'll help us with our cash problem and move us at least that much farther because the cuts aren't enough. I mean, I'm like the speaker. We have a very strong expectation that the Republicans may not vote for every piece of this, the revenue pieces and all that, but that they will in fact vote for the cuts.
But both leaders have.
We have acted responsibly, and we continue to act responsibly in paring down the size of government. But there is in fact a line to be drawn here. And the line centers around standing up for the people who need help the most. The line is around standing for young people who want to be part of this economy by going to college and being able to afford it and to succeed. And so what we're saying very clearly to the governor, we'll talk it. You don't want to do the taxes. We hear that. We're not going to cut the safety net in the way that you propose. Let's sit down and figure out how large of a reserve do we really need, what gets us through the cash problem that we face, and how do we begin working together on structural reform and all of the other pieces of California governance that are broken.